All right, and we are live. What's going on, everybody? This is Undead 3XVI, and welcome to episode 3 of the Gaming Perspective. So today we're going to be talking to all things Kingdom Come Deliverance and some other small tidbits along the way. So today I'll introduce the panel. Today, as usual, we have Mr. Rage.
Hey everybody, this is Rage Virus X. Thank you for tuning in to the Gaming Perspective for episode 3. Very excited to have you all with us and dive deep into Kingdom Come. It's going to be a great chat.
All right, and the newest co-host on the show, Mr. Samuel Tolbert.
Hey guys, what's going on? Hope you've all had a really pleasant week. We've got a fantastic discussion about a fantastic game planned. Let's get right into it.
All right, and making his first debut on the Gaming Perspective, we have a special guest, Mr. Fastback, who had the pleasure of playing Sea of Thieves with last night. How are you doing today, sir?
Wonderful, sir. Thanks for the invite, and glad to be here. Definitely, I got an addiction to Kingdom Come Deliverance, so I'm ready to talk, some issues and fun stuff.
All right. And you'll be able to find links for everybody's Twitter, YouTube's, everything in the description below. So, Kingdom Come Deliverance. I've been on the hype train for this for about, I think about 8 months, almost a year now. I know Sam's been following it a lot longer than I have. How long have you been following it for there, Sam?
I remember when the Kickstarter went live in 2014, actually. And I remember thinking to myself, because actually I didn't get an Xbox One or a PS4 at launch. I waited until 2014 to get my Xbox and 2015 to get my PS4. So I remember looking at Kingdom Come and just what they had laid out on the Kickstarter page and thinking, wow, everything Sony and Microsoft showed, this is one of the few actual next-gen titles that I'm seeing here. Everything they were promising. I mean, they were promising the moon. It just seemed crazy. There was no other game like it, but hey, it seemed interesting, so I started paying close attention, and they ran into a lot of delays. I think they didn't bite off more than they could chew, but they definitely bit off a massive chunk of meat that took a little while to chew down on. But it seems to have paid off for them, all things considered.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, I actually remember the first time I heard about Kingdom Come Deliverance was there used to be a couple of years back. There used to be a show on, I think it was either Discovery Channel or Spike, and it used to cover video games. And I remember them talking about this game, and they were talking about how it was a Kickstarter game and everything. And at that point, when they announced it, I was kind of like, Kickstarter games, they don't ever really get made. And they were talking about the whole premise about it being more of a historical game and all the things they wanted to do with it. I'm like, that's really cool, but it'll probably never get made. So, and then I forgot about it from that point on. And then 8 months to a year ago, I think around the time when they started talking like release window for it, like the actual release window, I was like, wow, this game's actually getting made? That's so cool. And then I start following it more and more. And yeah, it's been pretty interesting to watch it, especially if you watch its early builds and how it's developed and how it's coming along. It's been great. What about you, Rage? How about yourself? When did you start paying attention for it?
Well, the first time that I really took notice of the game was when it was with that E3 last year. I saw it. I'm like, oh, that looks like a really good game. It looks like a medieval RPG. So I looked more into it and started realizing what it was about, and I was like, this game actually looks pretty good, and looked more into it and realized it was a Kickstarter. I'm like, I don't think a Kickstarter game has ever actually come to fruition. Like you said, you didn't know or haven't really seen a game that's come out of Kickstarter to be a full-fledged game. It's not exactly a commonplace thing. Usually they trash and burn, take the money or run sort of thing. But yeah, as soon as I saw it, I feel that last year, I was like, oh, I think I might actually get this game. And I've been enjoying almost enjoying every single minute since I've been playing it so far. There's been some frustrating issues with it, like what I'm currently dealing with. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's actually kind of interesting because in the past 3 months we've actually had, well, actually the other game's been out longer than that, but in the past year we've seen Kingdom Come Deliverance, which has done insanely well for first IP from a studio, and you also have A Hat in Time, which has been insanely successful, which was also a Kickstarter game. So maybe Kickstarter games will start panning out a little bit more. Fastback, what about you? When did you start following for Kingdom Come Deliverance?
I guess kind of middle of last year. NLG podcast. They had Rick Lagnice on. And they started talking about it and bringing it up, and that's the first I heard about it. So I was curious, and after that. Whenever I would get online with the HDK, Nate, and those guys, we'd talk about it some more and get some more info. And so I was following Rick Lagnice on Twitter. And I had the privilege when I went to PAX South this year, he was there. And so me and him kind of hooked up online. And he invited me up to go view the game before it came out. So definitely enjoyed his view of the game, talking it up. Very nice guy. That guy, definitely worked hard to show this game around. And I liked what I saw, because I'm a KOTOR guy, Mass Effect. I like RPGs like this that have some challenges and a lot of depth to it, and especially the history. So yeah, I definitely got more excited after that. So.
Yeah, I was going to say Rick's fantastic and has done an amazing job of bringing people into that game and getting the whole definitely very active in the Twitter community, and he definitely the past few weeks and like very active in getting on shows and talking about it, and
he was smart because he goes to where you need to go. You need to talk to people that are going to buy the game, and they're going to spread the word.
Like I was going to say, I think on the week of launch, I saw him because we had him on Multiverse. Mm-hmm. He was on NLG. He was on Digital Hoarders. He was on, there was like 2 or 3 other podcasts he was on that week too. And he was really selling the game. And what I loved about talking with Rick about the game is I've talked to a lot of guys that do community management over the years, and a lot of people shy away from talking about the issues that arise with a game. And no game is perfect, and everyone who plays a lot of games will admit to that not every game, even if you think a game's 10 out of 10, there is always underlying issues. And Rick did a very fantastic job of acknowledging the issues and talking about them. And it was great hearing about how they're still working on the game. Like we just had a patch, I think it was yesterday or the day before.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yesterday, and they patched a bunch of bug fixes. I'm not getting arrested by the same guard after getting caught.
Oh, that was so annoying.
That's not happening anymore.
Stop, let me search you. Stop, leave me alone. Stop.
Which guard is this? In which town?
Oh God, I had happened in the first town.
Okay.
But, I think people had it a lot later on than that. I'm pretty sure I was the only one that was having issues in the first town. Like it's great to see dev transparency and what they want to do with the game going forward. And I really think if this is the first game the studio brings, it has me very excited for what they could bring with the second one. Whether it's a sequel or if they do another RPG style game or whatever. I think they have, I don't want to sell them too highly, but they have that CD Projekt Red potential.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because they've got the depth. They know how to make a really good game. They know how to make an addictive game, which is a talent in itself. So I want to talk about some of the positive things. What are some of the things you guys think that make this different from other RPGs? Because like a lot of people were comparing it to Skyrim. And I think the game has a little bit more complexity, actually a lot more complexity than Skyrim in a way. So what are some of the things you guys really enjoyed about this game different than other RPGs? We'll start with Rage.
Honestly, for me, it's not a true fantasy medieval kind of game. It's true to what it was in history. That's that sort of thing, and that's what really piqued my interest because it wasn't really more so hand holding in combat. Oh, okay, quickly use this potion, switch to the spell, launch a fireball, set your arrow on fire and send it at the enemy or whatever, or teleport to this other place. It's just true to heart sword or arrow combat, and it's not hand holding. It's brutal. You can't heal in combat. You gotta watch your sleep, your fatigue, your stamina. There's so many little things you don't normally watch all the time in other games, like you do in Skyrim, for sure. But I don't think to the extent of what they do in Kingdom Come Deliverance, and I really like that aspect.
Yeah, for sure. The one thing I continuously noticed was it was like, you're hungry or you're very dirty, or like those meters are like, I'm saying they're like I got into that fight with the drunk. It took me forever. He beat the tar out of me.
Yes.
And I was all bloody and covered in dirt, and the traders wouldn't trade with me. I was like, what? They were like, oh, they were like, basically you're too filthy or whatever. So I had to go find, I think I ended up finding a trough and cleaning myself off in a trough. And it's like, you're as clean as you can be from a trough. I'm like, thanks.
I mean, reality ensues.
Yeah,
I do that in real life too. Oh, right. Huh, I guess if I look like a homeless person, maybe people won't sell to me.
Won't take you seriously. Nope.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, all right, fine. I'm gonna wash up.
Sam, what about yourself? I know you haven't played as much of it as some of us, but what are some of the things that you liked about Kingdom Come Deliverance more, or does differently than, say, The Witcher 3 or Skyrim?
Well, I think it's just the fact that, like, okay, let's just call it for what it is. Can anyone please name me another RPG set in real history with no magic, no twist, no anything like that? Just you're some average guy who lives in the medieval period or lives in this period of history, and you're reacting to the events around you. There isn't one. There's nothing.
No, honestly, the only thing I could even remotely think of is, and this is reaching big time, Assassin's Creed Origins.
Yeah, I mean, even Assassin's Creed, that kind of falls under science fiction, right?
Exactly.
An alternate history. Or, I mean, I suppose if you want to go the RTS route, you've got things like Medieval 2, in the Total War series, and things like that, or Age of Empires, but nothing like an RPG, nothing like this, nothing that's designed to be this living world around you, but you're not the chosen one. You're not a Jedi. You're not a monster slayer. You're just some guy. You can work with that. You can find advantages of that. You can make that work. It doesn't mean you can't be successful, but, again, reality ensues. Try to take on 6 guys in a fight who all have better armor and weapons than you do. But just let me know how it turns out for you.
Yeah.
And because of that, Kingdom Come is really something unique. It's not something we've had before. And frankly, I don't think it's something we're going to have again anytime soon. Unless, of course, Warhorse Studios decides to make a sequel or another game in line with this, which is entirely possible.
I agree with that one for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. And one of the things that really struck home with me, it was actually in the loading menu when I first booted up the game. And it was like, the essential message was, you can't read, but you can find someone to teach you how to read. I'm like, beg your pardon? What? It's kind of interesting because with most RPGs, most RPGs, it always seems to stand like you always start out a little weaker than you are. Like we'll start with Skyrim as an example, because The Witcher's not necessarily a good example of this. Skyrim, you start out, you have like one spell. and you can level yourself up based on the way you want to play and everything else. But by the end, you're like this supreme badass that can fist fight a dragon.
Right,
With Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Yeah,
I don't feel like you ever feel like there's times where you feel like you're a badass, but you're like, I could still get screwed up by this town guard if I don't hit him the right way.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like I feel like with Kingdom Come, and I'm not at that point, obviously, I don't think any of us are, so who knows, but even if you get to like prime position 50 hours into the game with like really good armor and weapons and training, it might be at that point, okay, I can take on a couple of guys, or I'm an intimidating fighter now, but I'm still flesh and blood. I'm still a human
That's
being.
where I'm at. It's still not easy.
And see, there's something great about feeling human in a game where you don't feel like in Skyrim, one of the things that always used to bug me, it'd be like you walk in, it'd be like a cave full of like 9 bandits. You're like, all right, I'm going to take out the bandit leader, and then the rest will fall in one hit. This will be easy. Exactly. Kingdom Come, it's like I have to fight 2 guys at the same time. Oh boy.
Exactly. And again, I feel like this point cannot be hounded enough. We don't have any other game like this. That alone elevates it to an entirely new level, regardless of how well certain systems work or don't work. There's nothing else like it. Not for what it's trying to do.
Nope,
that really not commended.
The only other game I was thinking about, because I can't really compare this to KOTOR and Mass Effect. Besides, yes, you do have dialogue, and depending on what you choose, can kind of have a different outcome. But I was thinking maybe Dragon Age Origins, that the complexity, just the open world kind of detailed that you have to deal with, but take away all the magic and other stuff.
Yeah, I think you really have you do have a really good point. I found I didn't play Origins, but I played Inquisition, I think.
Yeah.
It was a couple of years ago now. But it's the closest game where you get that feel where when you make a decision, it has weight.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to guess that you haven't played too far into The Witcher 3 then, making that statement.
Okay. But, wait. I'm only like 10 hours into The Witcher 3. I haven't made any like super serious decisions. But it's funny because when you talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance and what it does, the most things that you can compare it to are The Witcher 3. And The Witcher 3, whether people want to talk about it or not, it's a masterpiece of what it does. Some people the biggest complaint everyone has with The Witcher 3 is combat. That's the only complaint I ever hear about the game. And I think combat is something that Kingdom Come Deliverance did really uniquely. And perfect example was I didn't figure it out for I think I was on my second time through fighting the drunk guy. I didn't realize that if you step in a certain way and try to use a power punch, it highly telegraphs. I couldn't figure out why he kept wrapping my arm and tossing me. I was like, this is the most frustrating thing in the world. Like I'm pretty sure he grabbed me by the head and knee striked me like 9 times in a row, and I'm sitting there going, "Stop predicting what I'm doing." And then I'm like, I'm sitting there like,
it's a very unique combat system.
Yeah, I sat there, it was like the AI is predicting what I do. If I favor a strike, they instantly counter that strike after I've used it 1 or 2 times.
Yep, and very much so.
And adaptive AI in games can either be a pain in with it in this game. Because I like it in some perspectives, and the combat system's great, like the angle, like how you can hit at different angles and everything else. Unfortunately, Henry for me is still very slow and sluggish, so he's missing a lot right now. But I'm sure as you get later on, it smooths out. So the game does a lot of good in the realism. It tells an amazing story, and the historical factor is really huge to me. I'm a huge history nut. It was one of my main things I did through high school, and I considered doing through university as well at one point. And the amount of depth of research they did to make everything as accurate as they did, I think is really well done. And as Sam said, it's really hard to compare it to anything because there really hasn't been anything done like this in this genre.
Right.
But some of the things that Now, it's no secret that Kingdom Come Deliverance has had its fair share of bugs, as any open world RPG does.
Right. Any open world RPG on this scale, cut a little bit of slack first couple of weeks.
And a lot of people I saw, they were like, "Oh, the game's broken," and like I've encountered a lot of the bugs. I can't remember who it was on Twitter. They had horses stacked on stacked on stacked. They had like 3 horses that stacked on top of each other.
That's what they do. What are you talking
about? There was someone that had a guard that was stuck on permanently hunting them, even though they hadn't done anything wrong. I actually had someone drop dead in a village, and then the guards hunt me, even though I had nothing to do with it. I've
had the surrender icon, the L, B, and A to surrender. I've had that icon stuck in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen. Doesn't matter how many times I hard reset my Xbox or restart the game or try a new save file. That stupid little icon is always there. It never goes away. I always have that stupid icon even when I don't need it, so I don't know if I actually have to surrender or if I can or not, but it's been driving me up the wall, and it's still there. I'm like 14, 15, I think, hours into this game, and the icon is still there.
Talking to your mother. Can I surrender? What?
I've had a couple of glitches in the beginning. In the town Rattay, there's a miller there. And he kind of teaches you how to pickpocket or lockpick. So when I did the pickpocket one, I was trying to do it, and I guess I actually bumped into him. And then all of a sudden, he's calling for the guards to come and get me because he's teaching me how to pickpocket. I don't know. So there was a glitch there. So I had to go back, reload to, because you had a bed there you can sleep. So try that again. And then I came across a herbalist area. So I went inside the room and I was looking at the alchemy book. And as soon as I started to read it, my body started to float up in the air. I was like above the clouds looking at the whole map. What? And I was like, what the heck? So, and then as soon as I pressed B to get out of the book, I fell down and died. So, and then another one here just not too long ago, even after the update, after I went and found a grave and dug it up and I started to head to the town, somehow when I jumped with the horse, I went underneath the ground and I could not get out of it. I tried everything. And so I ended up having to reload back right before that and do that again. So I don't know what,
my favorite glitch that I've run into so far was when you do your first initial quest, your father's like, go get the cash from the drunk, go pick up the charcoal. You do your first set of errands. You get kind of like the feel for the game. I got all the stuff. I was feeling like super accomplished. I came back and my father was standing on the roof of the house.
Well,
I couldn't interact with him. I couldn't get up to him. I was like, what are you doing up there? Apparently, Dad didn't need the pitcher of ale because he's already had 6.
No, that's why he needed another one.
He's drinking something else.
I think he's a goat.
He's a goat. God, it just makes me think of that Seth MacFarlane film, A Million Ways Die in the West, where the sheep's on top of the house.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a horrible sheep herder. Look, there's a sheep on top of the house. But as much as there is glitches in this game, I'm not sure if anyone remembers as far back as I did. I bought Skyrim day one, and the amount of frustrating glitches, save file corruption. There was a whole dungeon you couldn't get into because they were like, well, it's broken, and they didn't fix it until the Xbox One version, which was fantastic. And with Warhorse being so active with the patches, do you think we're going to give a perspective timeline? Do you think we're going to say 2 months. 2 months down the road, do you think they'll have about 90% of these glitches worked out, or do you think this is just going to be how the game has to be?
I'm going to take a middle road on that statement. I think 90% might be a little optimistic, but I don't think they're just going to relent, oh, this is the way the game is going to be. They've shown a very active approach of listening to the community, talking with the community, getting feedback, getting patches out there quickly. It may take longer than a couple of months, but I think they're going to iron out most of the issues.
Yep, definitely. It definitely won't take a couple of months, but I think we'll see a lot of the major issues fixed, and probably not the minor ones, but probably a lot of the combat issues. I'm finding movement issues, traveling issues, like a lot of the big things that can bog down the overall gameplay quality. I'm sure a lot of those will get fixed pretty quick, but then there'll always be those little ones that will hound you until the end of your days of playing that game, and then you forget it for a year and a half because you didn't complete it, and your backlog just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing.
Yeah, never in a story. Yeah, I mean, they said they're working on the bigger 1.3 patch.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to keep. They want to take care of this. This is their baby. I think they've done a great job, and they want to keep this game to where people are satisfied with it, even after so many hours of playing it. And then they're looking. We're already looking forward to what they can do next. So, keeping us satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think I don't want to cut other devs down, but I don't think I've seen a studio take so much care post-launch of a single-player game in a very, very long time.
Yeah. I would actually say the last one would probably be CD Projekt Red, honestly.
Yeah. Like, a lot of games, and like anyone who knows me knows I'm a big Bethesda Arcane nut. But one of my biggest complaints with them is they launch the game, they say they know the issues, but then you end up waiting. I think Fallout 4 was a month and a half before a patch was put out.
Yeah, I mean, it was a comprehensive patch, but nonetheless.
Yeah. Dying Light was another one that was really well taken care of post-launch for a long time. Still is 3 years afterwards. There's still content.
Those guys at Techland, I have to give them some praise. They've done a fantastic job supporting that game.
Oh man,
I actually met with them last E3. Great guys.
I think Ubisoft has been pretty good too about it.
Recently, their games actually.
Ubisoft, they've done great post-launch support with For Honor. I mean, the dedicated servers have taken way too long to get here, but they are actually coming. Like, okay, props to them for supporting the game, props for getting more characters, more emotes, things like that. Even The Division is still getting new content.
Yeah, and see, I give Ubisoft, it's great that you bring up Ubisoft, because I really want to give them credit, because Ubisoft lost, I think it was 82%. It was high 80% of their player base for For Honor. But they're still working on fixes. They're still adding stuff. They didn't abandon the game.
Right.
They're still supporting the game.
It looks incredible too.
The X patch, they did a great job on the X patch.
Man.
In doing this, and providing all this support, they've actually lured some of those players back, because they revealed that over the last few months, they've actually had across all three platforms over 1 million players per month. Now, I was playing For Honor. My brothers play it a lot, but I was astounded at those numbers. I would have thought half that, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, and see, Ubisoft is doing something a lot of different companies aren't. And it's interesting because it falls back into that whole games as a service follow through. It's Ubisoft is amazing in the fact that they keep giving you more reasons to play their games after you've beaten them. And like, even with what they've done with the DLC and updates for Assassin's Creed Origins is a perfect example of free content that keeps people playing your games. Because if you have microtransactions in your games, people are going to be like, nah. But if you keep giving people reasons to come back and play your game, then people are more likely to maybe spend money on it. Maybe not, but then you still have a player base. And I think a lot more studios are starting to realize that even if you have a single-player game, if you support it properly, people will, like, Dying Light is a perfect example. I'm glad, I think it was Rage that brought up Dying Light, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was.
Yeah. And Dying Light is fantastic with what those devs have done, not only in how they treat their players, but just how they present that game. I remember when The Following came out, I think that was the name of the first expansion. They removed the original Dying Light off the store and put The Following plus the original game for the same price that you'd pay for the original game, which was fantastic. So, because I picked it up when the following came out, because it was like, well, I could buy the base game for, I think it was like $60 at the time, or I could get the new expansion plus the base game for the same price. Like, that's a steal, and that's really understanding your audience, because, and like the things they did with the update and the things they added, the things they fixed, a lot of studios are starting to realize that the more support you give these games, even if they are single player experiences, the more people will want to play your game. I've gotten 4 of my friends to pick up Kingdom Come Deliverance just from them coming over and looking at it and being like, hey, this is a really cool game. Oh, but it's kind of buggy. Yeah, but they just put out a patch that fixed this and this bug, and they have plans on doing this and this. When you have a roadmap of what you're doing, people are a lot more trusting.
Just going to say that they have a patch roadmap already for like the next, what they have slated for the next 3 to 4 patches. And I think that's a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, because I think in the next patch, they're going to address lockpicking.
Yep.
Pocket mini games, so that'll help.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. That shows they're very responsible and active in what they're doing and taking care of their game and their product and making sure the user experience is there, what they originally intended for these people.
Right. I believe there is DLC in the works also, right? Some expanded story.
Yes, they're actually working on a DLC. They weren't going to do it when they first launched the Kickstarter, but they got so much additional funding that they said they were going to pour in the resources. And what happened is they're going to be making a DLC actually focused around a female character. Completely different character. It's going to be like a side expansion. She's going to have her own skills. Like, she's not quite as skilled in direct combat, obviously, but she can sneak a lot more efficiently than Henry and things like that. And she's going to have her own set of quests and things like that to do.
That's good. That's going to be interesting just in the fact of 15th century and playing a female character. That's going to be interesting. Just how NPCs are going to interact with you and everything else, because of the historical background, that just makes it so much more intriguing. That's going to be a very interesting plot to follow through. I didn't realize they were actually planning on doing DLC. That's exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting stuff.
Yeah, because it's weird because you could kind of, like, when you go on the edges of the map, and it kind of gives you a hint like, oh, I can't go any further until I get permission or I finish this. It almost seems like there are other areas that you can go beyond the map eventually. But I was going to ask real quick too, like, you guys have played For Honor. I haven't, but I heard that the combat here in Kingdom Come is similar to For Honor.
It is to an extent to where the targeting aspect, where you have to aim for certain parts of the body. So they have like those 5 areas for the head, the 2 arms, basically the 2 legs. That's somewhat the same targeting aspect of what they have in For Honor. So when they had that system, I saw that's what it was. I was like, huh. It instantly reminded me of For Honor. I was like, okay, so I kind of know what this means already. So this is actually going to be not so bad.
Where you have to use pretty much all your buttons, all your top, right, and left.
Oh yeah.
Both your joysticks to do the move around and target. Yeah, I do like.
Oh yeah, I absolutely love it. I think it's great.
Something I wanted to touch on too is something I find unique in the system. I haven't played For Honor. You guys are making me want to now.
You should. You should. It's great, actually. Yeah, I agree.
One thing that I loved about this game is how you position yourself, like how you're standing and how you're stepping while you're fighting, and how the combat system. I know Rick described it as weight, and that's the only way I could compare to describing it to. It's like when I was fighting the drunk for the first time, because I always refer to the first time of using the combat system for most games. When I was fighting that drunk, when I was using like my jab or my light punch, I really felt like I was tickling him because I was on my off foot all the time while I was using it. But when I got myself positioned with land a jab, I was like, okay, that's cool. But when you hit the power strike, you can really feel the weight behind the power strike. Like the instant you hit somebody, they're like staggered, and like there's a really good feel to the combat system. And the fact that if you hit an arm, it has an effect on how that person can fight. And it's just really, really well done. And it's really unique because we really haven't seen a game where you can target specific body parts.
Yeah, it's very uncommon. There's a handful of other games, but it's not a common feature at all, and certainly not in an RPG like this.
Yeah, and like the not being able to heal in combat thing is fantastic and annoying at the same time.
Yes, you have to be way more strategic now. You gotta be very careful. You gotta watch your moves, watch your strikes. You
No
gotta
hack and slash.
Yeah, and you can't just go berserker mode.
Yeah. And then you got another guy that could be behind the guy you're fighting, and he's got a bow and arrow, so you got to worry about that too.
Oh man, I've been killed in combat by I would swear I'm facing one guy alone, and all of a sudden I get shot in the back by an arrow.
Yeah,
I go from full health to like a quarter health left over. I was sitting there, what the hell just happened? I turn around and see the archer, and then you get stabbed in the back. I'm like, all right, well, try again. Okay.
Oh, that's why archers were despised in the medieval era.
Oh, man. They're still bad. I'm stuck on a mission where I have to take out this group of archers in this bandit camp, and it's just been absolutely devastating. You have to try to run up and kill them, and
there is a reason that the English longbow brought an end to the age of chivalry.
Oh yeah, it's bringing an end to me real quick.
and then like you were talking about the combat, like I tried that, and I just didn't feel I was far enough in my skills to be able to handle that. Like I got pretty good with the bow, but as you know, as far as gear and stuff like that, it's like no, I had to go back and reload and just worry about everything else and kind of get better at my skills before I even go back and tackle that. So
I don't think there'll ever really be a stop to the learning process for the combat in this game, because it's again, it's not a hand-holding kind of combat system. You really gotta know your stamina, like how to properly react in time when you get staggered by a hit, or like if you're wearing enough armor, how much you can take a blow before you can retaliate back or try to get that perfect block. It's just there's so many aspects to the combat system you have to watch out for that make it
how
so
you
difficult.
can even tackle that combat area, like how you scout it and then which direction you come in. Because Rick showed me at PAX South, and he made it look easy. Like he was sitting there, picking out the archers with his bow and arrow, and I'm like, but it didn't look easy to me. I'm like, there is no spot, like a target spot to put on the archers. You have to line it up to, and before you
got to do it, you got to gauge your distance.
Stamina goes down.
Yeah, you got to.
And one thing that's really, really cool is like I fought a town guard and I fought another town guard, but the other town guard didn't fight the same as the other town guard. Yeah. I feel like every enemy comes at you differently, which forces you to adapt how you play. Because it doesn't seem like, from what I've played, it doesn't seem like one style just is the end all and be all. Like I've had to switch back and forth between, okay, well, using a bow here works really well, but it's not working here really well. So I gotta do this. Oh, well, this isn't really working. I need to come at this a different way and everything else. And like the fact that there's even options for you to do stealth. My one friend's been live streaming it and he's been doing it all stealth play.
Oh, that'd be so tough.
Yeah.
That'd be really tough.
It's amazing to watch, and it's cool to watch, and it's amazing that it's a dynamic thing you can use in the game, although definitely a more challenging way of playing the game. It's cool that it's an option.
It's very hard to be stealthy because, like one of the deals where you got to find two guys in a camp, and you're trying to sneak around on them, and they just, hey, what's going on? Who's out there? And then all of a sudden, or they come running at you like, geez.
Yeah, because noise is actually a stat you have to worry about with your armor now, too.
Right. Yeah. Like, shockingly enough, you can't sneak around in layered plate.
Yeah.
No, you can't. Go play some Skyrim sneak level 100. All right, full heavy armor. Let's go into this camp, sneak kill everybody, poison everything, just get out.
But one cool thing.
No problems.
I waited till nighttime when they fell asleep. And so I went in there. I was a little bit more cruel about it. I got my bow and arrow and I just shot the guy in the head. One of the guys going at him, and then the other guy finally woke up, and I was fine. But Super Cooper, that's with us on the podcast, he knocked one guy out, and then all he had to do was worry about the other guy before, the guy he knocked out woke up. So.
Yeah, and that's something I think I want to address really quickly that the game does incredibly well is a lot of different quests. Now, not every quest, obviously, just due to the nature of them, but a lot of the quests have all these different ways that you can go about
Yes.
Getting a solution. Even sometimes the ideal solution has more than one pathway towards being solved. It's not this straightforward, go here, you got to kill these guys. Yep, that's done. That's over with. It's
even though like in the beginning because me and Super Cooper started about the same time. And so you know how in the very beginning you have to deal with the drunk to get the money for it, right? So the way I approached him was different the way Coop did. And so, and yes, we both got into a fight with him. But then after that, I went and got my buddies after doing, throwing the poop on the house to get their help to come help me deal with him. But he didn't do that. He decided not to do that. So he did it a different way. It's like, yeah, I mean, I love the difference, the way that, the decisions you can make and how the outcome, find another way.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I think that's what makes RPGs one of my favorite genres, the fact of all the different ways you can attack something and different ways you can handle various issues. It's why I'm a huge fan of RPGs, why one of my favorite franchises is the Hitman franchise, because options are always amazing.
Can't go wrong with options.
Now, we're going to talk about one of everybody's favorite issues to talk about with this game, lock picking.
Oh, how great it is?
Yeah, that's the ticket. Now, the question I pose is the lock picking system bad, or are we just overly used to easy lock pissing? Lock picking.
I mean, I don't think that's going to help, but I mean, we've tried everything else. So
piss on the lock.
Piss on it. It might work. Oh, look, I melted open. All right. Personally, I think we've been, used to too easy of lock picking. My girl's, she's been playing a lot of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, actually probably more than I have. And she loves it. She thinks it's great. You just have to start out on, practicing quite a bit, but she absolutely loves it.
Huh. Maybe it just takes a woman's finesse. Maybe we're just
that could be it. I'm gonna go call my wife and tell her, do this lockpick for me.
Yeah, she's put in I swear to God, she's put in probably 500 hours into Skyrim alone, like 5 different playthroughs or so. And she says this is better than Skyrim.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. She
That's
loves
an interesting take, but okay.
Yeah. I was saying in the beginning, because I was in a party chat with Coop and Nate and HDK when we're doing it together, and we're all complaining at the lockpick at the same time. It's like, this is crazy, it's ridiculous, it's impossible. But after putting several hours into the game and a little bit more practice, I started to be able to, hey, I can get it. I'm getting it. But it's still kind of hard. It's difficult. And I think that's the whole point. It's like, it's not made to be easy. So as you go along, you're able to unlock some perks. Maybe your lockpick a little bit tougher, or you have a perk to where you yourself are becoming more of an expert. It makes it easier. So it's just one of those things that takes time, but it is a pain if it's tied in with a mission or quest and you have to unlock a lockpick and you can't do it, now you can't finish that quest. So
yeah, I think that was one of the things I enjoyed about Skyrim to a degree, is that if you were to say you were I always went with the Nord two-handed sword, smash everything with a hammer kind of play style when I played Skyrim. But then when you're trying to do like the Thief Guild missions, you're like,
yes, what a thief. 6'3" and Daedric armor with a dragonbone sword slung over his back. That's prime sneaking material right there, boys.
No, that's a fucking bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, one of the things is like with Skyrim, they kind of give you a forgiving with you. It'd be like, oh, you can steal from this. You have to pickpocket this from this guy. But if that doesn't work, you can just smash him in the head with a hammer and loot him. It's fine. It's like, oh, okay. And I feel like they wanted, like with Kingdom Come Deliverance, they wanted for you to be able, like, you could be a sneaky thief type if you wanted to, but it definitely was going to be harder. Should the base lock picking be as hard as it is? Probably not. It could be a little bit easier.
It could be tweaked.
It could be tweaked.
a little bit, yeah.
I definitely think if you're going to make it part of missions and people aren't specifically geared towards that style of play, you need to make it a little forgiving to an extent. Because not everyone's going to focus on lock picking. Some people might be going for the, oh, well, Henry's going to become a knight. Knights don't sit around lock picking little tiny boxes in the corners of rooms.
Yeah.
I think there is some workaround because I think you can find a key on someone who owns that box. If you do, like I've had that happen a couple times where I didn't have to worry about lock picking. So
that's always cool.
It hasn't happened a lot. You know, there's just so many boxes out there, so you can't go around knocking everybody out and killing them. You know.
Oh man.
You could, but, you know, hard for you.
There goes my fun. Oh.
See, the surprising one for me was when I knocked somebody out to steal from them.
Yeah.
And then, like, 10 minutes later, they're like, guards! I'm like,
yeah,
you're awake?
Like, wait a minute.
Snap.
I had the same issue when I played Metal Gear Solid 5. I choked out a guard. I went and did a thing, and I was using my escape route. I felt like a complete badass. And then the guard's waking up, and he shoots me. I'm like, damn it!
This isn't supposed to happen. What?
A big complaint with the lockpick also is you can't find any lockpicks. There's one guy that I know for sure in Tamburg, one of the first towns you go to. You can buy 10 lockpicks, I think, from him. And I think you can get some from the miller that teaches you. But other than that, I have yet to run into anybody else that sells lockpicks. And I have pretty much been to every town in this game. I found a lockpick. You know how you have nests that you see in trees and you can knock them down or search them. I found a lockpick in one of those. I mean, and other than that, that's it.
Yeah, the most lockpicks I've ever found were on bodies, actually, of humans that I've killed.
Yeah,
they're just going, oh, there's one lockpick there, oh, there's one there, there's another one there, and then I don't use them right now because I'm not focusing on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been saving up, but other than that, I have no clue where to actually buy any if I ever need some in a hurry.
And you figure you're the son of a blacksmith. Can you not make a
right? Right? Like, do you not know how to make your own little string of metal to harden into a certain shape to make a lockpick? Like, you guys got some pretty basic ass locks back then. It shouldn't be that hard. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, so true. So true.
It's just obvious, you lazy bitch.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things you're like, I can't read or anything else, but you're telling me I'm a blacksmith's son that can't make lockpicks? Like, come on.
Yeah. Did Dad not teach you anything, or did you not pay attention?
Facepalm. Oh man.
Did he not teach me anything, or did I spend too much time down at the pub?
At the tap, yes.
One thing I want to touch on before we move on. A really unique thing I found about the game was how when you listen to conversations or you have conversations with people, you learn things, but then Henry learns those things too.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you learn about different people, and it's like, oh, so you've learned this about this person.
Yeah,
because of talking.
Kind of remembers.
Yeah, like you learn stuff. Like instead of just like, oh, this is a quest, it's like, oh, you learned about the Pope, or you learned about this. Because you're a common person.
You too.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
Like you're a common person. You don't necessarily know, like, you know who the king is, you know who the emperor is, you know the like basic gist of things, but like you start learning more about other characters or other key players in that political hierarchy, or learn about different things that are happening in different areas. And it's just a really unique way how they tackle something that all RPGs do, but they make it more immersive.
I was just gonna say this. It feels more so that you're actually building a friendship with those certain characters in comparison to, oh, my reputation is going up with them or whatever, or just kind of, I know this character's here. Go talk to him to continue my quest. Once it's done. I don't care. It's just another character. But with the Kingdom Come Deliverance, it feels like with certain key characters or random people in the village or whoever you continually interact with, it feels like you're actually kind of your character is building a relationship or a friendship with that other character as well, and you're kind of learning about each other and starting to get to know each other instead of just the basic go do this quest objective, come back, get through the dialogue, next quest objective. Done.
Yeah,
just a blank slate, kind of start to end NPC sort of thing.
Yeah, it's really cool with that. It's interesting how the NPCs tie into each other. You piss off someone who you think's a minor character in a village, and then 8 hours later, it comes back and bites you on the ass, and you're sitting there like,
yeah,
damn it, why'd I do this?
Yeah, I do enjoy the. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
It's something like when you make key decisions in an RPG, it's always like an A or B choice, and then you have to live with your A or B choice. But there seems to be more minor decisions you make in this game where you think they don't have an outcome, and then you're like,
lots of minor decisions that add up, that all pile up on you.
Exactly.
I was going to say that, I definitely enjoy the relationships that you build along the way in each town and how there is some tie-ins. My only complaint is overall, okay, so depending on what town you're in and you do a quest in that town, that kind of affects the town. But then the NPCs, the regular NPCs that run around, like they don't adjust to that outcome. They're still saying the same things, what they said before. And it's like, okay, there's no point in talking to you because it doesn't make sense anymore. So you can only go talk to certain people because you need items or whatever. It's part of a quest. But yeah, just the regular NPCs that run around, it's like they're not changing.
Yeah, so like if you do something for a specific town, say you help save the town from something, the traders and your key talking characters will adjust to that decision. But your average Joe Blow who's singing a pile of manure is like, hey, you're useless. And you're like, I just saved your town.
You can walk by and they'll say, I guess if your reputation's good in the town, they'll be like, hey, Henry, how you doing? Like they're nice to you. But so other than that.
Yeah. All right, so last topic, surprise topic. I want to kind of touch on and get everyone's input because everyone that's in here is part of a different. I'm not going to say segment of the gaming community, but we all interact with different parts of the community. We have crossovers, obviously, of people we all know. Mm-hmm. But I want to talk about Phil Spencer's DICE speech.
Okay, yeah,
because I've experienced firsthand from doing writing articles. I actually had bad feedback on my Xbox backwards compatibility list through a direct message. Actually,
seriously?
Oh yeah.
Nothing is immune.
No,
there are plenty of people. People might try to come after you, but that one, it's like, what are you complaining about?
Yeah,
and.
It's Xbox. I don't like it.
X marks the spot we hate.
That damn Xbox up to no good.
Damn Xbox ruining the gaming community one step at a time.
It's too green. I don't like the green.
But Phil Spencer touched on some good points on the gaming community needs to be represented in a proper way. There is toxicity in the community. Everyone should have equal opportunity for jobs and everything in the community. Now, it's a pretty straightforward speech. I can understand how some people might interpret it as a social justice warrior speech. I can see where people are coming from on that. But with everything that's going on right now, we're facing, as past couple of days, we've seen the blow up with video games getting blamed for violence for the 30th year in a row, and them wanting to try to tax M-rated games and everything going forward. I really think Phil Spencer's speech as a whole is helpful in this scenario because gamers as a whole, like we're all varying steps in our lives and everything else. Like I've got kids, I've got family, I work full time. Everyone's different in this community. And like you go onto Twitter and you talk to the gaming community as a whole, you'll get age ranges from 15 to 50 to having families to living in their mother's basement. There's a lot of diversity in that. Mm-hmm. And the people that play video games now, it's not necessarily, just 17-year-olds living in their mom's basement, but that's still a stereotype that's perpetuated. I think Phil Spencer, what Phil Spencer's trying to get at is that gaming as a whole has expanded and the industry itself needs to grow with it.
Right. Yes.
There's a lot of it's important note too that some of the best games that have come out aren't necessarily, all white 20-year-old game developers. Like BioWare's made some fantastic games and they have one of the most diverse studios in gaming industry. Same with Ubisoft. Ubisoft has an insane amount of talent and everything else. But toxicity as a gaming community, there's a lot of it. And a lot of us like to maintain that, a good majority of us are good. And there's a lot of good people in this community. But to get to the point is how we're portrayed, unfortunately, is if you click on a Kotaku link or you click on an IGN link and look at the replies to those articles, or you see
it's not hard to see where the whole toxic gamer stereotype comes from.
Yeah. It's not hard at all. I've had my kids threatened. I've had people impersonate my wife. I have had people Photoshop my children. I've had I've had everything, and I am not even a major contributor of content in this community. And it makes me wonder what guys that actually put out a lot of stuff have to go through. I'll give a perfect example of this. I wrote an article on TickGN a couple of days ago. It was top 5 games I want on Xbox OG compatibility. My top 5 games list. And my article, I had 9 people tweet me and they were like, this is a fantastic list. I wish this could have been on there, but I respect where your list is coming from. Mm-hmm. I got one direct message, though, from a gentleman. I shouldn't call him a gentleman. He had about 23 profane words in this direct message. Apparently, I was too casual. I picked too much of common games. I didn't really understand what made the original Xbox great. I missed out on actual good games instead, just games that would get me clicks, apparently.
There it is.
And I was apparently no better. Apparently, I was no better than Jason Schreiker, and I'm like, okay.
Games that'll get you clicks, because that's the first thing I think of when I read Def Jam Fight for New York. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous.
Like we see it. We see the toxicity in the community. Anyone who runs a podcast, writes articles, does anything like that. I'm sure Fastback with your podcast, I'm sure you guys have had issues at some point with some people.
Not so much with us, but we had we're good friends with Mike from NOG. So we've had Mike on. Yeah. He's had a stalker. And so when he was on our show, the stalker showed up 2 different times. And so the second time, I banned that guy. And he tried to tell me, well, you don't owe him anything. And I'm like, I don't owe you anything. And I don't like you harassing my friend. So see ya. You don't have to put up with that stuff. Like our last podcast, we had this topic on the field deal. And it's like I told people, like you said, you brought it up. We all come from all walks of life, different situations. And the one thing that I've always learned growing up and I was taught is that you respect people no matter what, whether you agree with them or not, and you find a common ground, or you do, you don't have to be an asshole. You can respectfully debate each other, but I think a lot of people there's a lack of respect online. There's no, like sometimes you don't know these other people, and that's fine. You don't know where they come from, but some people, they could be, come from depression or PTSD or whatever. And, you just have to just be cool about it. People take this stuff way too seriously and personal, and there's no reason for it.
Exactly. And I had the issue. I had a gentleman that from the PlayStation side of things, he photoshopped pictures of my kids. And I got irrationally mad about it because that's the kind of person I am. I'm very, very, very overprotective of my children. I try to keep a level head. I'm very level-headed with my interactions on Twitter, but I legitimately lost my marbles while dealing with this gentleman. Well, he made the mistake of he used a troll account to post these photos or whatever, but he made the mistake of following himself. The only person he was following was his actual Twitter account.
Yeah, no surprise.
So I tracked his Twitter account back. He had a Facebook account linked to it. So I contacted him through Facebook, and it turned out he lived less than an hour away from me.
Oh. Oh, right. Well then.
So I very kindly sent him a message via Facebook. I said, hey, I'm this guy from Twitter, everything else. I have these pictures you've photoshopped of my children and these things you've said about my family. I have all of these screenshotted. I said, I see you live in such a town. If you do not desist from harassing my family on social media, I will take this to the police and you will be arrested, because we have internet laws in Canada, and it's great. Because if you make threats against someone's family, it's considered death threats and everything else. So right quick, delete both his Twitter account. He does not participate in social media anymore.
Nice.
Good.
Good. That's how I dealt with that. Could I have flown off the handle, hopped in my car, driven over, and beat the tar out of the guy? Probably, but that wouldn't have solved anything. But everyone gets that solution, and it's like Fastback mentioned, I actually had to deal with Mike Stalker as well when I did my one-on-one show.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah.
And commented 2 minutes after the video posted. I think somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So I blocked and deleted him as well.
Yep.
And it's insane because there's actual parts of the gaming community that feed this. There's groups and podcasts and everything else. I won't name names or anything that completely feed to this side of the community. This toxic, they encourage it. It's what gets the most clicks in our community is unfortunately some of the most toxic behavior. And it always feels like there's a one-up competition in one part of this community on who can one-up each other on essentially being a shittier human being. And you can ignore that part of the community is what people don't realize. I don't give, me personally, I don't give that community credit. I don't talk to the people associated with it. I don't deal with them. I don't go on their shows. I don't. That kind of thing, you can completely ignore it, because if you try to, I'm going to say, combat against it or speak out against it, all you're going to end up with is all those guys coming and trying to drop down on you, and it's pointless.
Yeah, it's not worth it. A lot of people use the mute button, use the block button, because it doesn't whether you have thin skin or not, it's not worth it. No, you do not deserve to be bullied or anybody. You don't have to put up with anybody's shit. Just block them, mute them, and that's it. Go on your merry way.
Yeah, exactly. It's not worth your time, because you can't fix someone else's thought pattern. You can't change how someone thinks.
You can definitely change.
This is why to the end of my life, I will never discuss politics on a social media platform. Yeah. Because if you disagree with my side,
that's the worst.
Apart from some extremely, extremely basic things that shouldn't fall under politics, they should fall under this is human life we're talking about. Aside from a couple of basic things, I follow the same pattern. You
can't change how someone. Yeah, exactly. we're all raised differently. We all have different backgrounds. We all have different experiences that form these opinions. You're not going to change someone's point of view if they've grown up for the past 30 plus years believing one thing. There's some guys that I love in this community, but their gaming opinions and their political opinions, I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
But they're great people. That doesn't change, like, their views doesn't change who they are or how they interact with me.
Yeah,
And
it's one of those things like in the workplace.
Yeah.
It's not a good idea to bring religion and politics in the conversation. There's a reason why.
Yeah.
And the Great Pumpkin.
Oh, jeez.
No, but if you don't mind, just dragging it back to what Phil said a little bit in his speech at DICE 2018, which was incredible. If anyone hasn't listened to Phil's speech, you really, really should. Yes. He spoke about a lot of honest truths about just where Microsoft and Xbox have been and the things he's working on, the things that they've had to do, combating this kind of culture, both out, in public and in the workforce, and how it's not always that easy. If you want to identify the people who are a problem in this community, look at the people who have a problem with what Phil was saying.
Yeah.
Whether it be, I don't care what form you claim that takes, whether you think, oh, he's just giving that speech because conform to this societal norm, blah, blah, blah. Or, oh, well, he had to say that to make these people happy. Or, oh, well, he's actually addressing his own fan base. I don't care. If you have a problem with what Phil said, or you're trying to twist it in any way, you're a part of the problem.
Yes. Yeah, plain and simple.
All you have to do to look at it is Microsoft did an event in Toronto here. I think it was last year. And what they did is it was disabled gamers. Mm-hmm. What they wanted to do, they wanted anyone that was like wheelchair bound, crippled in any way, blah, 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 blah. Show up. We want to talk to you about what issues you face gaming. It was like they were giving out controllers for people that had one hand. They were getting feedback from the disabled community essentially on how to make their gaming a better experience. And half the people commenting on the post on Twitter and Facebook were like, "You should stop catering to minorities. Nobody cares what they think." And I'm sitting there like,
are you?
They're just as important as anyone else.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like their mental health is important. Mental health in general is extremely important, especially for people who don't have the ability to play games normally like most people do. Maybe they have just as much or more passion than what an average person has for video games. And what if they all of a sudden have this ability to actually be able to play it? That's why I've always really, really liked and enjoyed knowing that Xbox has its own department for accessibility for disabled people to be playing games.
Well, just look at what they're doing with the new avatars. They're letting people, whenever the avatars finally roll out, but that's another discussion altogether, they're letting people have robotic limbs, or wheelchairs.
It's fantastic.
It's inclusive. It's incredible. I realize you approach this type of thing, it's never going to be perfect, right? Because then you enter the realm of, oh, well, what about people who suffer from mental health problems? I get that. I understand. But look at what Microsoft is doing and then compare it to everybody else.
Yeah. And I'll touch on a story. There was a gentleman I went to school with. He was a couple years older than me. He ended up going into the military, and he was a very, very heavy RPG gamer, and he liked his shooters and everything else. He ended up going into the Army. Long story short, he did a couple of tours. He ended up getting his arm and his left leg blown off. So he's wheelchair bound now, and he only has one arm. And for the longest time, he just adapted. And he played Xbox 360 and eventually Xbox One with one hand, which is an amazing thing to watch, by the way, is watching someone do better than I can in video games with one hand on Xbox controller.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. But he ended up making a trip up to Xbox's division in Toronto and ended up talking with them. And they hooked him up with a custom controller. And I was like, wow, how much did that cost? He's like, no, they hooked it up to me pro bono. They just gave it to me to try out, as long as I gave feedback on how it worked or things I would improve on it. And it's small things like that I admire that Microsoft does. And I've always said this, it takes very little effort to be inclusive of other people. And if you think being inclusive of other people is a problem, then you are the problem.
Amen.
In a sense.
Exactly.
Because it did, like, whether Microsoft makes a controller that's for people with one arm or whatever, that doesn't affect me.
No.
And like these people that are like, oh, you spend too much money on this, you should be making games instead. I'm sitting there like, come on, just give it a break. Like,
I'd rather them allow other people to be able to play. Like, I know there's guys or people in wheelchairs that play with a breath controller. Like they can't use their arms, they can use their feet, but they also have a breath tube, and they use that to play video games, and they actually end up being pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And that's like you said, Phil, that is one of the things he stressed, is that gaming brings everybody, no matter what your situation or where you're from, who you are, is that it brings everybody on an equal playing field. And then, and then you go from there, So that's like you said, like you see Aaron Greenberg, he's raising money. You see him raise money for stuff like that. PAX South, I've seen that stuff. And I even talked to a gamer. She only had one arm. And we talked about that, and I thought it was amazing that, this stuff is being made for everybody with that situation. So if you have a problem with it, like you said, you got the problem. Unfortunately, we will always deal with people like that in society. It's never going to go away. You're always going to have toxicity. But as time goes by, the more of us who see, come together and move forward together in a positive way, we can stamp that stuff out and kind of put it in the corner and say, hey, bye. We don't need you. So
100%.
Like all of us here, like you guys, and I try to stress other people, let's just get together and let's try to bring some positive attitudes to the gaming community. And we know who the toxic is. So we don't need to worry about them. Mute and block them. We don't need it.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. And I think that's the biggest thing too, is like the whole reason like I started gaming again, because I played heavily when I was a kid. I played on my parents' PC and everything else. I dropped out of it just before high school and everything else. And I ended up picking up gaming again. I have no problems talking about this either. I ended up running on the wrong side of the law and managed to just skate by, ending up in a long-term prison sentence. I ended up lucking out and getting probation. And part of my probation is basically I could only go to school and I could only go to work. And the rest of my time I had to spend at home. I wasn't allowed to go out. I wasn't allowed to be out past 6 o'clock. So I was like, well, this kind of sucks. It kind of got lonely and everything else. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy myself an Xbox 360. So I bought an Xbox 360. I bought a PS3. I started playing again. I started playing online. I started interacting with people. I started talking to different people that I was hanging out with at the time. Ended up meeting some different people. And it really was a major aspect of what turned my life around from that point, including my wife, who was fantastic. And it really changed who I was, and it molded who I am now. That's why I'm such a pro advocate for charity, including everyone else in just about anything. That's why I try to have such a variety of people on this show. It's just a huge part of who I am, is giving people chances, because not everybody has a chance to be vocal about their issues or talk about stuff that's going on. And that's why when I decided to make this podcast, everyone has their own merit and everyone does something really well. Sam's an amazing writer. He does amazing work for us at TIC. He did amazing work at RGM. Rage does fantastic work at Loot. I also I talked to him before. I think it was on Multiverse Show too that we had him on, and he was fantastic. Fastback, you do amazing work with your podcast, and the people you hang around with are nothing but great people. I have absolutely nothing bad to say about any of the people that I've seen you have on your show. And the guys over at NLG are fantastic.
And same thing for TIC. You guys are what you guys bring to the community. I love it, and highly regard you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
And I just feel like the good side of the community, we focus so much on the toxic. Everyone goes out and we want to shame the toxic people. And there's certain people that have fallen too far into shaming the toxic people, and it just becomes toxic behavior in shaming the toxic people.
Yeah.
And I think if you just focus on building something that you're passionate about and you have fun with, that's half the battle right there. And that's why I love this podcast so much, is because we come on, we talk about games. There's no social media drama. I'm not, calling rage names on Twitter after the show goes offline. There's none of that. I honestly look forward to doing this every week. And it's fantastic that we have a community that does support this kind of content. And there are people that'll show up no matter what. There's people like Mike's Stingers in the chat right now. Chief Tommy, who's literally in every podcast I've ever been on. I don't think this guy misses a podcast. This guy
he does. No, I got to give a quick shout out to Tommy in that way.
Yeah.
He is a bulldog. He will be there in the chat. It's incredible.
Yeah, he will.
It really is.
And he speaks his mind,
Oh, he is not afraid to speak his mind at all.
And that's why we had him on the podcast one time, because I told him, dude, it's okay whether I agree with you or not. Just be cool.
Everybody has their own different opinions.
Yes. Yes.
Actually, I didn't know he did podcasts. I might have to have him on at some point then.
I think when we had him on, that's the first time. Because like you, I like to try to reach out to other people, because I've been there. I'm a big fan of podcasts, good people. So I know, hey, sometimes you just can't say everything. Sometimes you want to speak up, but how do you do it? So it's cool to have people like you, and like what we try to do is bring these people on the podcast, let them speak, have fun.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one thing going forward I definitely want to do with the show, is I want people to, even if they the most heartbreaking thing I ever had is I was on a podcast initially called The Writer's Block for Hard Knock Game. And I tried to get onto a podcast. I won't name names because they're really good people. It's just I didn't fit their criteria at the time. Yeah. And I asked them if I could get on the show, and they said I had too low of a follower count for them to be interested in having me on the show. And that crippled me for a long time on how I felt about myself and my opinions and everything else. And a huge turning point for me was when Anchorman messaged me on Twitter the one time. He was like, hey, me and Fame do this show every once in a while called Multiverse, which I'd watched almost all the episodes for up to that point. I watched it quite frequently. It was like, do you want to hop on sometime? And I was like, yeah, sure. Whatever, that'd be amazing. And I guest starred on an episode or two, and then they brought me on full time. And that podcast has grown into me, Mike, James, Fame, and now Sam as well. And it really changed, and Anchor's been a huge part of that, and changed how I want to run my shows and how I want to react with people as a person. I always want, because you never know if you give someone a chance, what they can do with that chance.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a huge part of it. And I want people, if you're watching this and you're interested in the show and you want to talk games with us, and if you have topic suggestions or anything, hit my Twitter DMs, because if you follow me, you have access to my DMs. It goes into a request folder, but if you're legitimately not sending me threats, I do respond to my DMs. All right, so this is pretty much going to wrap up the show. I've got one more thing I want to touch base on. Just want to see if the person I sent it to has seen it. They haven't yet. I don't think he's online. All right, so as some people may know, I'm quite advocate for charity work. I try to do my own little things here and there. I did one for Las Vegas shooting. I think I got $566 raised for Las Vegas shooting victims. Did charity. Also did one for veterans early last year as well that were wounded. It was supplying video game consoles. I raised a couple $100 for them there. I've been very focused on doing charity gamer score runs. It's something I like doing. I haven't done one really this year, and we're heading into March, so I felt like I needed to do something. But I always try to touch on different subjects and things, and usually I focus on organizations. This time around, it's not necessarily a charity thing. This is someone who just needs a leg up. It just needs that push through. So for March, all the gamer score that I earn, for every 1,000 gamer score I earn, which is going to be converted into $10, is going to be at the end of March, is going to be donated to anyone who's familiar with Doc. His Twitter handle is Forget Amnesia. Anyone follows him knows that he's in a difficult living situation right now. He's got a string of health problems as well as trying to just make ends meet. So for every 1,000 gamer score I earn, I'll be sending $10 to him. The goal is going to be 30,000 gamer score, which will convert roughly to about $300 for him. And what I want people to do that watch this, because I get contacted sometimes, people have gifted me games and everything else to get gamer score and everything else. If anyone feels at all obligated to send me anything, don't do that. In the description of this podcast, I've got Doc's Patreon and his PayPal. And please do not hesitate to, if you feel like you want to help out, even if it's just $1, $2, whatever, give this man a hand. I want him to be able to afford the medical treatment he needs, because I truly believe if he's able to afford the medical treatment he needs, he would be able to secure himself the full-time work he needs to fund all his goals. So I really hope people will support this. I'll be doing live streams and everything else in support of this as well. And if anyone has any questions at all, they can hit me up on Twitter at undead3xvi. You can also hit me up via email to at undead3xvi@gmail.com. And yeah, that's pretty much the only announcement from me. Anyone else got anything they want to say?
I got nothing.
No, except thank you for doing what you're doing for Doc. He's a great guy,
Yes.
trapped in a horrible situation right now. He needs all the help he can get. So thank you, dude. Seriously.
Yeah, definitely cool. And yeah, if I get that link from you, I'll pass it around.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and if anyone wants to follow Doc on Twitter, it's at Forget Amnesia. He's fantastic. He talks about games he wishes he could make. He's come up with some really great game ideas. He's got a game coming down the pipelines in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, just support the guy, help the guy out if you can. He's been fantastic. I've talked with him back and forth for a couple of months. I know Sam's known him for a while. And yeah, he's just really great guy. And I just feel like sometimes people don't get the opportunities they deserve. So sometimes other people have to create those opportunities. So that's what I'm going to wrap this podcast up on. We'll do our outros. Rage, you can do your outro, sir.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in and listening in on the Gaming Perspective, episode 3 about Kingdom Come Deliverance and all the shenanigans that going on there. And just thank you for supporting us. And this is RageVirus X. You can find me on Twitter at RageVirus_X or at thelootgaming.com.
Perfect. And Sam?
Yeah, so you can find me if you want to follow me on Twitter at Samuel Tolbert. That's TOLBERT. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you for everyone who listens to the show. We appreciate your support. And please be positive. Stay positive out there. There's way too much negativity. There's too much of a focus on negativity in gaming. It can be easy to get that way. It can be easy to become downcast. I've been victim to it too, but stay positive.
All right. And Fastback?
Yeah, you can catch me on Twitter at Fastback6768, and definitely hit me up. I enjoy meeting new people. And you can catch me every Friday on the WDFC podcast at 6 p.m. Eastern. And you guys, Rage, it's nice meeting you. Sam, it's good to be on the podcast again with you. And Undead, you guys are more than welcome to come on the WDFC if you can. And everybody else in chat and those who are listening later on. So we definitely appreciate it. It was fun.
Oh, yeah. Always a pleasure to have. Yeah, always good to have new people on. And if you want to check out WDFC podcast, the link is in the description, or it will be once I upload the thumbnail. And so that's it for this podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget, if you want to support Doc, it's all in the description. And yes, that's it. And we will see you guys most likely next week with a new topic once I figure one out. Or actually, I think it's Sam may have to figure out the next topic. Me and Rage did the past couple, so may have to get Sam to do this.
There will be a topic, one way or another.
There will be a topic.
Not come back without.
There's always something. There's always something right now.
We've just really been blessed with a bunch of new games to talk about, so it's been great.
2018 has been a wonderful year so far. It has been a fantastic
wonderful year for everything but my wallet.
Yes.
I'm still trying to beat through the games from my 2017 wallet. My wallet still hasn't recovered from that year yet.
Yes, seriously.
Just get Game Pass for Xbox.
Oh God, yeah. We might. I was gonna say we might have to talk some of the Game Pass games because those will be announced by then. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. So yeah, this is us signing off. I hope everyone has a great. Yeah, it's Saturday night. Have a great night.